So let's jump straight into the market update so I can tell you what's going on here in Texas. Now, I recognize it's June. All of the numbers up here say April. We don't have the official May numbers yet. They'll typically come out in the second week of the month. As soon as I have them, I will pop them up on the Texas REIAs Facebook page. I'll pop them up on our YouTube channel. You guys can go and check them all out. It should be on our recording that we do, or the presentation we do next week. So you should be able to start to see some of those. Houston typically comes out first, followed by Dallas, followed by San Antonio, and Austin, for whatever reason, is the one that comes out usually like the third, sometimes even the fourth week of the month. But this is what we have. This is all going to be still great and directional information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the roll-up of everything that happened in Texas. Roll-up of everything that happened in Texas. So and then we'll break down the 4 major markets here in Texas. So and I'll go through and highlight some of the things that are on here, and you guys can take a picture of the slides if you'd like, or you can go back and watch our recording of it as well. But I'm going to highlight some of the things that I think are important and want to make sure you know so you can make decisions from those. So last month, the sales price in Texas was $432,000, up 17.5% versus where we were the same time last year. Right now we're operating on 1.3 months of inventory here in Texas. Many of you guys are probably familiar with the term days on market, how long it takes a property to go on the market as an active listing and then get to pending status. That's days on market, how long it takes to go from pending to actually closed and sold. Typically another 30 to 45 days on top of that days on market figure that you usually see. The number that you may not be as familiar with is the concept of months of inventory. And months of inventory, what that concept means is if we stopped listing houses today based on the average monthly buyer demand that we've had over the last 12 months, and exactly in this case for all of Texas in exactly 1.3 months, we would be completely out of an inventory of homes for sale. Historically, our 40-year average here in Texas is closer to about 6 months supply of inventory, 6 months supply of inventory. So right now we're running at about 1/6 of the total inventory that we have historically had, and it's going to be in this position for a very long time, even in a rising interest rate market, because we still have so many people moving here. We still have very high job creation, very low unemployment, and economy is very stable here in Texas. So that's one of the things, that's the big thing that's causing these big jumps in our average price. So typically here in Texas, our average price increase year over year is somewhere between 5 to 6%. So when you see numbers in the high teens, that's unusual for us, but that's a phenomenon that we've been seeing for about the last 2 years. And I think we're going to continue to see that even in a rising interest rate market just because of the lack of inventory, right? Last month we did see our sales down. They were down about 3.5%, nothing to set off any alarms. Also partially because we're running on very little inventory. If we had more houses to sell, we probably would have sold more houses as well. Our total active inventory is pretty much flat from where it was the same time last year. The forecast for 2022 in this bottom right-hand corner, for those of you guys who can see it, sales volume, I'm projecting it should be up around 5% year over year. Last year was up 6.1% on very close to the same amount of inventory. The average price will be up probably around 20%. Mostly driven by the fact that we have no supply, we have so many people moving here, we have an incredible amount of demand. For the Houston market, last month the average sales price $426,000, up 15%. Houston was pulling up the curve for all of Texas in terms of number of closed sales. Houston was only down 0.2% on a 1.4 month supply of inventory. Their pending sales are down, but for what we'll see as we figure out all of the May data, but only down 1%. So Houston's performing one of the strongest markets in terms of both closed sales and pending sales, even though they're slightly off what they were last year. Forecast for the Houston market, sales up should be somewhere between 10 to 15% versus 2021. Average price up somewhere between 15 and 20% versus 2021. In the San Antonio market, one of the most affordable markets in Texas, average price was up 20% to $396,000. Their sales last month were down 8%. They're running on a 1.3 month supply of inventory. Forecast for San Antonio is that sales will be up somewhere between 3 to 5%, average price up in the 15 to 18% range. In Dallas and Fort Worth, average sales price $486,000, up 19% versus where we were last year. Sales were down, but only 3% versus last year, partially because we were going from a 2-month supply of inventory in Dallas, is what we had last year, to a 0.8 month supply of inventory. Pending sales were down, but again, pending sales would be up if we had more inventory of homes for sale. Last year, Dallas was the only market that had a reduction in year-over-year sales. Again, only down 1%. Dallas sold roughly 100,000 homes in 2020, sold about 99,000 in 2021. No one's feeling sorry for Dallas, Texas, even though they were down. The forecast for 2022 is that sales should be up somewhere between that 1 to 3% range, and the average price up somewhere between 18 and 20%. For Austin, our average sales price last month, $680,000, up 19% versus where we were last year. The reaction that you guys have, I know the people who are reacting. Who had that like gasping reaction in here? Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you have been in Austin for more than 10 years and you had your hand up. Okay. So usually the high gaspers are the ones who have been here for a long time and are like, what the heck happened? Well, I'll tell you. So I did a little research on the word Austin. And as it turns out, it is from the Latin root word meaning San Francisco. I got almost all of you to laugh. All right, okay. Okay, I knew that one was going to get you. I was like, oh, they're not loving me yet, but maybe I'll get them on the Latin for San Francisco, and that works every time. Let's see, days on market in Austin, 18 days, months of inventory, 0.8 months of inventory, which was actually an improvement over where we were last year at 0.5 months of inventory. Now, that being said, closed sales were still down about 6%, and then pending listings are down about 9% for as we roll in the month of May. We'll get what that actually looked like. Active listings have actually had a big jump up in the month of April, which is pretty typical going into starting the beginning of those summer months. So it went actually from 1,900 listings to 2,700 listings. That's why we see this big increase in months of inventory. Somehow, though, last year, Austin with only 0.5 months of inventory, somehow Austin was still able to pull out a 2.5% increase in sales last year. I honestly don't know how. I think it's because houses were only on the market for hours in many parts of last year. So based on that, I'm thinking that Austin could pull out another 2% increase in sales. That average price probably up somewhere between 25 and 30%. Not so. The $300,000 houses, yes, they're up in price. But remember, the average price also looks at it's based on the mix. So we're selling a higher mix of $1 million properties than we sold a mix of $1 million properties just even several years ago. So does this, guys, help you get some information about making decisions for the market going forward? I hope so. Okay, fantastic.